Howdy, howdy. I'm here driving. I just left the dump area. I just went to do a trash run and headed back into Sholo. And I'm on the road here doing the speed limit, which is 65 where I'm at. And there's this truck behind me just literally tailgating me because I'm not going fast enough for him. I'm just like, the minute I decide to go faster, I'm probably going to be the one to get pulled over. So I'm just like, sir, you're going to have to find a way to get around me if you want to go faster. But I am not. In fact, we're approaching a 55 limit right now. So I'm going to have to slow down. But this guy is like right behind me. So, you know, I don't want to take any chances right now because these tickets do not feel good. Okay. All right. So I'm headed to run more errands. Usually this is what I do on Fridays. I go and get everything I need to have available to me because I rest on Shabbat on Saturdays. So I try to make sure I have everything I need. I had a very good call this morning with a past client and extending her project a little bit as well. So that was good news for me. And so I'm just pretty much gonna go pick up kind of grocery items a little bit and just come back home and chill for a little bit. Probably work in the garden this evening if I get a chance till sundown, but I'm taking it easy for most of the day today. And yeah, so that is my day. Just wanted to check in and say hi. I am heading home. I'm on my little dirt road. I'm almost home. And I thought that it would be a good time to talk a little bit about when you're buying land. And, you know, and the reason is I watch a lot of, you know, homesteading channels, off-grid channels. I'm sorry, I'm going to be shaking a lot. And they always make mention, well, not always, sometimes you'll get oh, I got my land for very cheap. So there are certain parts of Arizona, there seems to be like a real someone mentioned this in my comment, actually. There seems to be a grand arrival of people from all over the place to Arizona. It seems to be like the place to be. And there was cheap land here. You know, I'm sure people started kind of making this transition several years ago, and the land was a lot cheaper, especially like in areas like Cochise County and, you know, other areas. But the minute sellers realize that there is a demand, that's not going to always be the case. The land is no longer going to be cheap. So you'll probably be watching a channel from someone who bought their land 6-7 years ago and it was cheap, and they're kind of giving you advice about land right now, and you kind of have to realize that, yeah, but the price is not going to be the same now. So you cannot necessarily base everything off somebody else's, you know, pricing, what they paid for their land. Plus, you got to look at, you know, location. You know, where are you in the area? Do you have trees on the property versus no trees? Do you have like a road access? Is it secluded, or do you have are you close to things? Every piece of land is going to be a little bit different. And the big ticket part of it, to me, I mean, obviously it matters what you pay for the land, but you're going to get to a certain point where you realize that buying the land is the easy part. That's the cheap part. So now you got to develop the land, okay? And developing the land could be a very expensive thing if you're not careful. And so what am I talking about when I say that? I mean, buying raw land doesn't always mean that you have physical access to it. So my land did not have physical access when I bought it. Well, a part of the negotiation was to make sure that they put in physical access for me, but there was no physical access. It was a part of a 40-acre property that they split. Now the front part of the property had a frontage, had a county road, and it was a maintained county road, but I was on the back side. Well, I am on the back side. It's where there was no road to access it. So a road had to be put in for me. And when I arrived and found out that the road was not extremely drivable for, yes, it was an okay road, but how am I going to get my car down here? How am I going to get, vehicles down here for deliveries, my shed and all of that stuff? So now you got to make sure that you develop the land so vehicles can come down here. So those are things you have to look at. You may buy a piece of land that there's a ditch in front of it. Now you got to put in a culvert. In Houston, when I bought the piece of land in Houston, it had a house on it, but it was the house. I ended up demolishing the house. I had to put in a culvert and a driveway and everything, and that added up very, very fast. Then you also have to understand, do you need to clear trees? Do you need to clear out the property? Is there already junk on the property from the previous owners? So you have to provision or set aside some funds to clear it. Now, you could probably go rent the equipment and clear it yourself, but for some of us, we had to hire that out. So now that you clear it, you need to put down some kind of material on it because it's muddy. You can't just drive on it when it rains or snows. It's going to be muddy. So you got to pay to have some material put down on it. And then if you're going to, depending on the structure that you're going to put in, you may have to put a pad down. So you have to pay to clear out an area for the house. And then the whatever material, in my case, I did the dirty screen. We did a huge layer of it, probably more than 12 inches layer, and compacted it really good. So it's very thick. So I had to do all of those things. So there is, and then of course, are you going to have animals? You need to create areas for the animals, and you need to fence the property, fence the areas for the animals, foundation for your house. So all of those things, even before you get to the house part of it, actually, even before you get to the animals, you are spending sometimes up to $10,000, could be even more, just depending on, for example, my driveway is very, very long. So, ended up costing me a little bit. So, it's great getting property for a great price. Definitely negotiate for that. But also understand that a bulk of the expenses come from when you have to develop that land, because raw land doesn't come just ready to build on. There's so many things that you've got to put in. And then once you've put those things in, and then you're getting into the real infrastructure, you're off grid, right? So now you need to have a way to power your home and your appliances and things like that. You need to have a way to heat and cool. You need to have, if you're getting animals, as I mentioned, you need to have water, sewage systems, things like that. So all of those things have to be considered as part of your upfront costs when you're buying land. And so when I came here, I decided what my priorities were. Like I said, I had to put in the road, I had to do all that, and just right off the bat, just to develop my land. So I had to come in, like I said, the sellers put in a road for me that I didn't pay for. The sellers did a perk test as part of the negotiations, and when I got here, I decided to improve the road because the road was very rough. So to improve the road and cut out a road onto my property, improve the road, put down material, actually, I didn't get to that yet. To improve the road so I could get vehicles down there, and the road is shared, by the way, with me and my neighbor, but my neighbor hadn't bought his property yet. And I knew that going in, that I was doing the road for me and somebody else out of my own pocket. It cost me $5,800 to improve the road, and I widened it, and had some more rocks taken out and some of the bumps taken out, and put down material for that had to be at least 800, 900 feet, probably 1,000 feet or more. I added materials. Now, when we were adding the material, we thinned it out in certain areas, and then added it thick in other areas where it was closer to my property. And then I had to cut out a road onto my property, and the pad, and putting down material on that. And that ended up costing me, was that $5,000? I think that was $5,000. That was to cut out another, my driveway from the road, my driveway from the road to my cabin is probably, I don't know, maybe 600 feet, probably 700 feet probably. And so we had to cut that. We cut that, and it's a windy road. And we did the pad, like I said. So the pad was very, very well structured with a lot of material on it. And we put a lot of material on the road itself. And so that was about $5,000 to do that. And then, of course, I have not put in a fence because the way my property is set up, I want to have a fence at some point in time, especially on the front, but it's so secluded that it's not a high priority for me, but it's something that I definitely think I could probably tackle myself at some point in the future. Again, it's probably just going to be a rickety fence. Okay, so then for my septic system, I had a second perk test done because the first perk test that the owners did, the previous owners did, it was clear on the other side of the property. I wasn't here for it, and the gentleman who came and did the perk test for me just kind of picked somewhere on the property and perked it. And when I came here, I just realized that I did not want to be on that side of the property because it was too close to the neighbor, to that neighbor. Well, where I am is close to the neighbor too, but it was real close to that neighbor, and then it was like more rocky over there. So it would be hard for me to, you see, like here if you've seen other videos, you kind of see my general area. I have more open space to work with and more rock-free space to work with in this area and over there. But I didn't want it to perk over towards the front. I didn't want to put my septic system towards the front. So I wanted it to be somewhere in the back side of the property. And so the first part I perked, it had a nice open area, but then it wasn't a big enough area that was rock free. So when I took charge of the property, when I bought the property, I had another perk test done, and that perk test cost me $1,000. And so that test, that's why I decided to do things on this side of the property. So that was another infrastructure thing that I ended up doing. The septic itself, I was $12,200, but my understanding is that I underpaid for that because, my septic guy came back and told me later on that he did accidentally do some miscalculations, which worked out in my favor. And then, we had a lot of issue with extra rocks and things like that. And there was a lot more labor involved than was initially quoted for. But I think he just kind of put that on himself and didn't charge me extra for that. So I didn't pay anything beyond the $12,200 that he initially quoted me. So that was my septic. And what else? I had some more rock brought in for some more cinder, or not cinder, but the dirty screen brought in and brought down to this area that, in front of this shed. And it's that was just about $500. And James was here with his equipment, so he just spread it for free for me. He didn't charge me for that. He even cleared out my garden bed and cleared out where the carport is, and he charged me like $300 just to clear those two areas out. So he already had his equipment here, so I think that's why he kind of gave me a nice break on that. But so those are the infrastructure stuff. My solar, which is still not installed yet, we're still waiting for permitting on that. My solar system itself was $6,800, and then installation ended up being like over $3,000 to install it, plus the carport that I got to install it on, and the carport was $4,400. My water tank was, how much was my water tank? It was like $1,900, I want to say. Yeah, that included like them delivering a tank, setting it up, and the first water delivery. So that was $1,900 if I'm not mistaken. That little shed that blew over was like $250. And then I paid my neighbor $200 and something to install it for me. So believe it or not, $500 is in that little thing. So that's why it was so nice to have it get put back in place. My garden area that I've cut out and I'm working on, and you may be able to see it if I turn this around, my garden area, the fencing materials, everything together was about $800. So that's $800 in that. And of course, while you're here, you buy other little things, I had to go out and buy the generator, which was like $1,000. Even though I have an EcoFlow in storage, I had to go buy one, and that was like $500. And, so just a bunch of little things that you end up buying while you're still here. And I'm walking down to the front of my property because I want to give you guys a sense of how long the driveway is. And before I turned on my camera, I was reading a post that I made on Facebook today, because I post a lot of scriptures on Facebook. I don't know if I have as many friends as I used to have. And it's from Psalm 138 verse 8. And it says, Yahweh will perfect anything that concerns me. And it says more than that, but that part just stuck out to me. And I got up this morning and I asked Yah to lead me to the word that he had for me for today. And that's what he led me to. And as the day progressed, I had a call with a client. She's a client I've worked with before. And we were supposed to be talking about a current project I'm working on. And out of the blue, she added another project. It's a small one, but she added something. And I'm just like, well, thank you for that, because that was an unexpected blessing there that, as you know, coming here, things are not exactly popping with projects coming in. I still have Houston projects, but I have to turn down a bunch of projects because they are too involved for me to take them on. I don't have a team there I trust to do it for me. My daughter works for me and she's still in Houston, but she was just more on the admin side. She's a creative because she runs a wedding business and she does all the design work for that, but it's a different animal than what I do. She's very familiar with the processes and everything and manages a lot of what I do, but what that takes, it takes a special skill set to manage some of these projects that we have in Houston. So I've had to turn down some of them and kind of keep the ones that I feel fear, because I don't want to be I don't fly anymore. That's a big part of it. And if I have to drive back, it has to be like a huge project that would compensate me extremely well. And so far those aren't coming on board. So the smaller ones, they do the trick, but they're not enough. And the clients are aware of that, obviously. I make them aware of that from the beginning. But anyway, I'm rambling a little bit about that, except to say that was just a beautiful blessing that was unexpected. And I'm so thankful to Yah, because he really does perfect the things that concerns me, because, hey, he knows it takes money to do the things that I'm doing here. And he just provides. He absolutely provides. Okay, so I'm not going to turn the camera around because it's going to expose my neighbor's property and I don't have his permission to do that. So actually, let me just go past it so that way you can see my property line. But I don't want to turn it around and expose his property. So as you can see, it's a really long driveway. I don't know if you were like checking on that as I was talking before. Okay, so I'm a little confused about where my property starts because there are two pins over here, but I don't worry too much about it. There's a pin, they're both the same. So there's a pin right here, and then there's another pin over here. Can't really see it because it's hard for me to show stuff. But anyways, so I'm not as concerned. But anyway, so this is the road coming into my property, okay? Okay, so you can see the road actually runs through my property. We have a 50-foot easement from the edge. So I'm a little bit unclear as to whether it's a total of 50 foot that I need to be off my property line, or 25 on either side. Based on what it looks like on the survey, it looks like it's 25 on either side. But I mean, I'm not building a fence yet. When I'm building a fence, I will kind of look into that a little bit deeper. But this is kind of where my property starts and goes that direction. So this is the edge of my property. This is the southwest side, and the road would the main road would go there. That's where the easement is. but this is my private road. So as you can see, this side of the property is quite rocky, but behind these rocks and trees right here, there's like a whole nice smooth area similar to where my setup right now, and that's where we did the original perk test, and it was very close to my neighbor's property line, which, because you need to be a certain amount of feet, I can't quite remember how many feet now, I think it was 50 feet from the neighbor's property, and he just cleared literally 50, and that was it. And it's kind of the same case back where I'm at, honestly, but it's just temporary stuff, like my clothesline is right about on the 50-foot line and so on, so I can easily move stuff like that. Can't move a septic system. So over here is basically pretty much untouched. Again, here I'm kind of on my property line for the most part, and it would go kind of straight ahead past the street going this way, so the road cuts in here. Again, kind of rocky over here. All right, and then you get here, and this is initially where we were going to put the road going to the area that perked, because the first perk test was done by the sellers. They brought someone in. Well, actually, I chose the person they brought in, and it perked all the way over there, and this was the road leading to it. But we'd have to kind of take out all of these rocks and all that, and I'm just like, okay, that seems like too much work. And so coming back this way, back on the road again, so the easement is probably about 60 feet from where I'm standing here. Okay, coming back. So this is why I want to put a fence in, at least on the front, to help define my property a little bit more, because it's just really hard to tell. I don't know if you can see that I have a neighbor. Let me kind of walk over there and I'll kind of show you where my property line is. So here, so I'd say, and I'm just kind of estimating right now because I'm not 100% sure, I'd probably be standing on my property line. As you can see, I have a neighbor over there. I met them one time when I came here, but that was a while ago. So okay, so getting back on the road. See my beautiful rocks. Now I know I talk a lot about the rocks, and you know, I do have a lot, but I did not plan to develop the whole 10 acres. Absolutely did not plan on doing that. In fact, I'm probably only developing 1 acre of all of this, and maybe when I put in a pond, a few more acres from there. But I was never planning to like build all over the place. Now, who knows what the future might hold, and I may decide to put like a little area and have maybe my kids come live or something like that. I'd want to put it like on the other side that perked. So see, now on this side of the property is all like just open and clear and hardly any rocks over here. So I'd say it's a good 50-50 mix of rocky, I'm sorry, I'm breathing so heavy. That's because I'm walking. It's a good 50-50 mix of rocky areas and open, clear areas. So I have so many areas to do what I need to do. I just don't want to take out too many trees either. So here again, so this is on the rocky side, but even on the rocky side, you'll see you have some big clear areas. And I'm just trying to give you guys a good look of it as I'm approaching the area. Okay, so one of the thoughts I had was to put my animals in this area right here, but that would be the first thing that you'd see as you're approaching my property, which may or may not be a bad thing. I don't know, because that would encourage me and push me to make them look nice and be all beautiful instead of crappy. But I also realize that that may not be feasible, so let me look at other options for that. So I'm going to show you another area that I'm considering. So I'm trying to show both sides of the property so you get a good idea. I don't know what this wetness is. I'm pretty sure it's an animal pee. I'm gonna bet. Because it did not rain or anything. See, I love like seeing these little open areas right here. To me, they would be cool to kind of put like a little structure. And that's what I was thinking. It could be an animal structure. So that's not out of the question yet. But, and of course, this area is for my pond. And right beyond it is where all the trash is. My guys are going to clean that up for me. I've already talked to them about that. So that's going to be gone soon. All right. And as you can see, the views back here. If you go right behind these trees, you'll see amazing views of that valley. All right, and now you're very familiar with this part because this is the part I hang out most of the times. So, but what I wanted to show you is where I'm considering putting my animals. So, for one, not on the septic field. I'm walking on the septic field right now, on the little leach field. So, for one, I was thinking I could put, I don't know, maybe rabbits here in this little cluster of trees. Now, every time this is where my property drops off on the back. It drops off about, I wouldn't say the slope is about 10 feet, probably. But I'm imagining that when animals come onto my property, that's where they come from, you know? So I'm like, do I want to have my animals in such close proximity to where, but animals would go anywhere on the property, you know what I mean? So I'm thinking here is a good option. While I'm standing here, I just want to show you that little view peeking through the branches there. Just amazing. But back to the animal situation. Anyways, so this is where I'm thinking the bunnies could go. I'm getting bunnies just for their poop because I don't eat rabbit meat, but their poop is so valuable that I think that if I'm gonna run a really good homestead garden, I should have bunnies for their poopy poops. So I'm gonna get some, and I already have a source. I hope she doesn't mind that I'm thinking that she's gonna be my bunny rabbit source. She's gonna be my bunny dealer. And then here is where I'm thinking I can put the chickens, right? And then so all these rocks, I'm gonna have James come back and kind of just loosen them up a little bit, and then I'm gonna put dirt, soil, not dirt, just good soil in between them somehow, and then plant in between them and just have like a nice rock garden. So it's gonna be elevated rock garden, so it looks nice. So that's where I'm thinking. This is the chicken areas where I'm thinking, and the bunny area over there. And then if I have anything else, I'm thinking, you know, lambs or something like that, maybe further over there. But again, I don't know. And I'm talking to the experts in the room now. If you guys would do that, knowing that the predators probably are coming from beyond there. I don't know for a fact that's where they're coming from, but so back here would be for the lambs. Now, I don't think lambs are like goats. Do they need to climb stuff? I don't know. Do they need to climb rocks? Do they need rocks for that? I think that's a goat thing, not a lamb thing. But so I'm thinking they could be back here. So the animals would be in close proximity, but still a good distance from the house, and they're not going to be the first thing you see. But again, like I said, I'm not opposed to putting them at the very front where they're the first things you see, because that would kind of make sure I have nice animal structures and where it looks nice from the driveway. So tell me what you think about that. But you can see back here, this is like the little drop off point, and you just see all these rocks back here. Now some of them are like nice and loose that you can just pick them up, and like we could just bring in like a whatever tractor thing not a tractor, but you know what I'm talking about, and scrape. Some of them are just on the surface, but you can tell some of them are like embedded deep down. Look at these big enormous ones right here. So I mean, I think if I got goats, I'm thinking I might get goats too, but I hear that goats are like super high maintenance. As kids we had goats, and so I don't remember them being high maintenance as kids, but you know, it would be so nice for them to have these luscious rocks to jump on. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm pacing myself. I'm saying all this right now, but I mean, I'm not planning on getting all animals at one time. And I'm trying to decide what to get first, get myself acclimated with having animals, you know, a routine, because I know now I need to get up a little bit earlier to feed them. Now I need to check on them before I go in at night, things like that. So they're like having little kids, you know. So I know that it comes with a different set of responsibilities, and I want to be ready for that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about all this animal stuff that I'm talking about. Right now it's just a dream and talking, and but you know, it's almost time to start putting some of that into action. And I'm sure the first thing I need to do is put up a structure. So let's talk about it.